Hello, hello. So, this week we are going to explore the question of how did the spirituality get stripped from math? It's going to be a four-part series from today until this Friday. So, last week we ended on the notion that mathematics as a field has undergone an intellectual cleanse. Math was at one point a highly spiritual, highly theological field, but at some point the feelings, the oohs, the ahs, and the sense of wonder were stripped away, and mathematics was reframed as a purely logical field. Right now, everyone around the world is exposed to math in more or less the exact same way. We, the people of our era, discover math in classrooms, textbooks, and online databases. But there was a time before all of those things. Keep in mind that mathematical truths are discovered, not invented by humans. This week we'll go over the history of the discovery of math. This topic could, of course, fill thousands of books, all of which are thousands of pages each. So we are going to keep it tight. So we're going to keep it centered around the question, how did the spirituality get stripped from mathematics? So, I think the best way to approach this is to give a far too brief history of math. And that is what we're going to cover today and tomorrow. So, the history of math is the history of humans confronting and understanding abstractions. Abstractions being things that only exist as ideas rather than experiences or events. A very early abstraction that humans understood was that two apples and two oranges had something in common. There were two of them. Ancient humans also understood and leveraged geometrical knowledge. Humans discovered properties of shapes, and that proved useful in their day-to-day lives. If I wove or braided objects in a certain way, I could make them sturdier. If I made my house a certain shape, it wouldn't get blown away by the wind. Consistently, across all early civilizations, humans employed the knowledge they could learn about geometry and applied them in a variety of ways. Shapes inspired us to solve practical problems, but also instilled in us a sense of wonder. Shapes and patterns were the inspiration for early human games, early human dance, and early human spirituality. The shapes that instilled the sense of wonder in us were not just the ones that we saw in front of us, but also the ones we saw when we looked up. The moon and the stars in the sky were some of our biggest mathematical inspirations, especially once we noticed that they were moving and changing. Where were the stars going to be? That's a mathematical question. But why were the stars going there? That's a spiritual question. And humans saw these two questions as part of the same branch of knowledge. And that is likely why mathematics was considered a spiritual discipline in early civilizations, simply because we looked up. After the early seeds of mathematical ideas sprouted, we began to count. As we understood how to count, we could keep track of things and how they changed. Commerce and trade emerged. As humans spent more time observing geometric patterns in nature, astronomy was created. We started keeping and recording time. After understanding how to count, another breakthrough occurred where we began to measure things. With the ability to measure came a number of developments for humanity. For example, the Great Pyramids were constructed. Many mathematical concepts came to be understood, but they were all within the framework of practical problem solving. Relationships between triangles, properties of circles, and formulas for calculating areas were all understood, but they wouldn't be referred to as concepts, relationships, or properties. People would be concerned with how can we divide this land fairly, or how many bricks do I need, or how much water can this pot hold? And that is as far as we went. But then someone had the idea to change the questioning slightly, a reframing. Instead of asking, how much water can this pot hold? They asked, can I find out how much water any pot can hold, no matter how big or small? And once they asked that question, things changed radically. All right, that's all for today's video. Much of today's video was synthesized from reading 5,000 Years of Geometry by Christoph J. Scriber and Peter Schreiber. And I'll see you tomorrow.